Okay, CC students, just a real quick video about a witness statement and timeline. The guide and the mock trial packet do a pretty good job about this, but this is just something if you're struggling with it, just an example of how to write a witness statement into your own words. So one thing that you're going to do is you're going to read the witness statement and you're going to examine it and you're going to see what it says. And I've written a hypothetical one that we're going to go over, but while you're reading it, you're going to begin to look for words that stand out to you that are important, and you're going to circle those, and you're going to use that then to rewrite the statement into your own words and condensed version. So here's a hypothetical witness statement that I would, let's say that earlier today, I was in an accident when a truck wrecked on Interstate 81 and debris flew off the truck and damaged my car. Now, full disclosure, today on Interstate 81, I did see a truck drive into the side of the guardrail. The driver was okay, but the debris did not hit my car. So that's how I came up with that. So my witness statement would be something like this. On December 18th, 2020, I woke up at 7:30 a.m. When I went outside to feed and water the chickens, I saw that it had snowed. I had coffee and watched TV with my wife Sarah. At approximately 8:30 a.m., or approximately 8:32 a.m., I drove my son Daniel and Gio to ballet at CPYB. Before driving to CPYB, I got gas and a newspaper. At approximately 8:48 a.m., I arrived at CPYB, dropped off the boys. I then drove on Interstate 81 North to return home. And at the High Street exit, I observed a truck which struck the guardrail, and debris flew off the truck and hit my vehicle. Later, I got home, saw our friend Sharon, who was picking up an incubator for her eggs, her incubator back from us for eggs. And later on, I went for breakfast at a restaurant called Mama Spriggs with our friends Todd and Chris. And then on the way home from picking up Daniel and Gio from ballet, I talked to my friend Vince on the telephone. So now I'm making these videos. So it's been a pretty eventful life, a pretty eventful day for me today. So what stands out in this witness statement other than the fact that I absolutely have no life? Well, the first thing that's important, I think, is that the date, right? Saturday, December 18th, 2020. Woke up at 7:30 a.m., went outside to feed and water my chickens. That's important to me, but probably not important to anybody else or in relation to this accident. Saw that it had snowed. That's really important, right? Had coffee, watched TV, wife Sarah. Approximately 8:32 a.m. Drove my son Daniel and Gio to ballet at CPYB. I think that might be important. Before driving, got gas and a newspaper. At approximately 8:48 a.m., I arrived at CPYB, dropped off the boys. I then drove on Interstate 81 to return home. High Street exit, truck. So we can use this now to break down all those unnecessary words to say Saturday, December 18th, 2020. Woke at 7:30 a.m. It had snowed. I had coffee and watched TV with my wife Sarah. At 8:30, I drove my son Daniel and Gio to CPYB. 8:48, I arrived at CPYB, dropped off the boys. Interstate 81, drove Interstate 81. About the High Street exit, observed a truck, and put that in there. So you can see how you take those words out of the statement, condense it down into a more succinct. This is a way to rewrite it so that you can understand what had happened. Plus, it forces us to actually read the witnesses' statements and look for key facts in there, and we'll be using those for our Annie charts. The other thing that you're going to do then, and if it was this example that I'm using, we would have the statement of the truck driver, right, who would talk about his day. And we would look for key facts about what he had done earlier in that day. And then we would create a timeline. And so we would have a timeline for both witnesses. Sorry, you can't see that. There you go. And so the timeline for me, obviously, like the big part of my timeline would be what occurred on December 18, 2020. So you might put the things that happened early in the morning on the timeline, and then on that date in question what happened, and then maybe some later things that are important to the case. Also, then you would do the same thing for the truck driver, right? You create a timeline, and you get to class and you begin to ask questions about how our statements are similar, right, and how our statements are different, how our timelines relate to one another, and how we can begin to, on our master timeline as a class, not only put the events that occurred for me on that day, but also the events that occurred for the truck driver that day, mesh them together. We have our independent timelines, but then we mesh them together in the case timeline, the entire timeline, and then we begin to see how people fit into this case, different points, and how we interjected ourselves. Look, in this example, on December 18, 2020, had the truck damaged my car, we would have two independent people who were living their life, who were going about their day, and at some point in time, they came together, and an incident occurred. You know, he hit the guardrail and damaged my car. But there's more to that story, right? We're telling a story about what happened that day, and part of it is when we get into our opening statement, when we get into our theory, our theme of the case, when we breathe life into characters. Part of it is important to know what happened prior to me coming into contact with this individual, and we begin to ask questions. And when we do our Annie charts, is like, okay, was this typical for me to wake up at 7:30 a.m. on a Saturday? Do I have experience driving in the snow? Do I usually drive to CPYB on Saturday? Do I usually go on Interstate 81? Would it be uncommon? And then the other things that happen, like, going to breakfast afterwards. If I'm claiming that I was injured in this accident, but then I went for breakfast, right? That would be material to the case. And then also we look at the truck driver, right? Had he been driving a long period of time, what had his life been like prior to that? And we begin to match those things up, mesh them together in our master timeline to begin to tell the story. And that's exactly what we're doing in this mock trial. We're telling stories. So it's a quick video. If you're struggling on your witness statement and timeline, just keep doing it, and it'll work out. Thanks, and have a great weekend.